day during Kwanzaa, ceremonially, we light a new candle. You know, we start off with you know, the unity candle in the middle, you know, for Umoja. You know, we move out to the red KUJICHAGULIA, and so on and so forth. You know, until the whole Kinara is lit up. You know, when you have your house, you know, dark, it's actually a beautiful sight, you know, to do with your family here. Speaking of families, I also have here, you know, representing the harvest, I have a basket. I actually have, you know, African cloth that's actually from Tanzania. And in the basket representing both the harvest and the children in our house, you know, we just have some fruit here. You know, you can use fruit, you know, some people use corn, but just representing the first harvest. You know, I actually have 2 apples here, you know, representing our girls here, and, you know, orange representing, you know, our little boy, TJ. So, yeah, so what I like to do is just get into the ceremony. So we do it like this every day. Yes, today is the second day of Kwanzaa. So the answer would be KUJICHAGULIA. So for KUJICHAGULIA, here's our Kinara. So we like, you know, already have the unity candle, the first candle that, you know, which represented, you know, Umoja, which was yesterday. So to add to the Umoja and to add to the light on our Kinara, you know, we light the second candle, which is for KUJICHAGULIA, which means self-determination. You know, so as Black people, that's us, you know, deciding for ourselves, for us defining ourselves, for us controlling our own narrative, you know, very, very important. So say it with me as we celebrate KUJICHAGULIA. And once again, may the principles of Kwanzaa carry through, not just through the 7 days, but every day of our year.
welcome, and greetings for wherever it is you are in the world. It's important for me to start off by kind of um, saying a big thank you for Dr. Byron Johns for kind of asking me to be to play a part in this, and I'm really, really honoured to be doing this. And I also want to kind of say a big thank you to Christopher Eclipse, right, for his amazing performance piece that's going along with of Kwanzaa. Day 2 is KUJICHAGULIA, and that's a mouthful. I always kind of struggle and trip over my tongue when I pronounce it, and which deals with self-determination, to define ourselves, to name ourselves, to create for ourselves and speak for ourselves. And part of what I will be sharing is giving you my journey around that. And I'm going to start with a piece of music, and then after that piece of music, I will explain why I've started. What you've just heard was some drumming by Eli Anderson, who you're going to be hearing more from a little bit later. But the drum call is very significant in terms of African tradition. The drum is used to communicate. It's a form of celebrating. It's to mourn and to inspire. It's played of time of peace and war and planting and harvesting and birth and death. And so for me, drum call also kind of signifies that many are called, right? But not everybody answers the call. Those of you that are tuning in, you were the ones that answered the call, right? And for that, I kind of thank you. The drum is the heartbeat, and it's the very heartbeat of who we are and what we're about. And for me, that is also really significant in terms of us celebrating and looking at our self-determination. Now I'd like us just to have a moment of silence. Thank you. For me, a moment of silence is really, really important. First and foremost, for me, in the silence, it helps me to kind of honor those who's kind of come before me, right? It's where I can honor my parents, John and Miriam MacDonald, who is no longer with us, and also my siblings, Melford, Melva, Orville, and Devon, who also are no longer with us. And it helps me to honor the MacDonald, Marshall, and Malcolm family lines. And in the moment of silence, it enables us to kind of reconnect with ourselves. It helps me to keep still. It helps me to kind of get present and to just be with you. So thank you for allowing me to have that moment. So who am I? You're probably wondering. My name's Clifton, and I'm a consultant, coach, and trainer. But I also see that I'm much more than that. That's actually what I do. I see that I'm a spiritual being having a human experience. I also see that I'm a child of the universe. I'm also African. I'm also Jamaican, and it's taken me a while, but I'm British. Britain is where I was born, but I also honor the lines that makes me who I am. And I see that as being really, really important in terms of acknowledging who I am. So this is a little bit about Sankofa, which is the collective that I've started. Sankofa is an Akan term, which comes from Ghana, that literally means to go back and get it. And the going back and getting it is going back into the past and bringing back to the present what is needed, what is present and important to us to bring forward. And as it says there, it's the knowledge of the past upon which ancient cultural and ancestral wisdom and knowledge is based on to benefit current and future generations in our own self-determination. It's me looking back on not only my own family and my own patterns, but also looking historically that it's really supported me in part of my kind of self-determination. I see that as being really key in terms of self-determination. A little bit about how Sankofa was started. And in some ways, it actually started long before I mean, even outside of this journey. But Sankofa was born in the heart of a 4-year-old who desperately wanted to return home. At 4 years old, I was put into a children's home where my mother went through a major operation and needed convalescence for a number of months. And that had a real profound effect on me, right? Because as a result of that, there was a feeling of being abandoned and separated, not only from my Jamaican family as a child, and now I think part of my journey is also to my original African family that I belong, and which has really got me a real passion to return back home. And for me, home is that place that is within. It's that, it's sometimes it's not actually a physical home, which it might be for some of you, but it's that home that's within which is within all of us, that made us feel safe, wanted, seen, and heard. So this is a quote, and it says, "For tomorrow belongs to the people who prepare for it today." And I see that is really, really important, that if I want to continue my family legacy, that's really, really important that I kind of begin that right here and now. And I remember, I think, reading the Broder File from the Broder File 2 by Anthony Browder. And what really had an effect is what he said is actually what I do today can impact up to 7 generations. And when he said that really made me realize that that's really, really important. So for me, Sankofa is for anyone who's ever felt the pain of being abandoned, displaced, lost a place they called home, a feeling of not belonging, of not being seen or heard, of being too much, not feeling good enough, or you feel you are to blame and you want to return to that place called home. So for me, Sankofa kind of encompasses all of that. What's really significant for me was that I saw the film Sankofa over 25 years ago. And that film had a really profound effect on me. And as viewing of the film, the director, Haile Garami, was also in the audience, and he spoke to us about what led him to make the film and the importance it is to tell our stories. And if you remember, as part of self-determination and KUJICHAGULIA, it's the ability to tell our own stories, right? And the way that story was told really resonated with me. The other thing that really struck me as well is when he spoke, he said he did the filming in Jamaica and Ghana. And he said the landscapes are very, very similar. And of course, being of Jamaican parentage and having been to Jamaica, that really struck me. And when I visited Ghana, I kind of saw what it was he was saying, because just the landscape of Ghana really reminded me of being in Jamaica, and that really resonated with me. So, what are some of the things that that Sankofa will be offering? We'll be doing education programs that will be looking at conflict and change, transformation, leadership, to young people and adults who work with those young people in the community. It's the Rites of Passage program, which will also be working with adults and elders. It's one-to-one coaching. It would be the selling of books, arts and crafts. And I mean, this one I'm really kind of very passionate about. And for me, it's also looking at returning to Ghana, experiences in Ghana and retreats. The methods and techniques that I will be using, games, right? I mean, exercises such as affirmation, forgiveness, and gratitude, just to name a few. We'll be having discussions, there'll be drumming, there'll be meditation, there'll be storytelling, the listening of music, art, and quotes. And finally, I mean, and this runs through all the work that I do, is I was fortunate enough over 20 odd years ago to do an Urban Rites of Passage program, be a participant. And that had a real profound effect on me. And it really influences and impacts and informs all the work that I do. And Rites of Passage gets you to ask yourself 4 questions. Who am I? Right? The second part, am I who I say I am? Right? And in the second part, that's where the challenges come through, because where you say who you are, and actually the challenges really challenge, actually check, am I who I say I am? Right? And from that, you kind of begin to see, am I all I ought to be? And finally, it kind of asks the question, am I living my life's purpose? That's all I'm going to share about Sankofa. You will be listening with an interview and a session with me and Marlene Joseph, who's an integrative therapist, right? She's a breathwork and bodywork therapist. You'll also be listening to Eli Anderson, who's a storyteller, who's story hate, and the significance of stories and us telling our stories. And I forgot to say self-determination. So firstly, I want to say thank you for agreeing to spend some time with me. So for those who don't know you, can you please introduce yourself?
Right, okay. Well, my name is Eli Anderson, and I am a storyteller and a narrative coach.
Eli, tell us a little bit more about how you became a storyteller and a narrative coach. I mean, what was the journey?
Well, it's a very interesting journey. I've been doing storytelling, performance poetry, etc., jazz musician for a long time, over 25 years, 30 years. And as after a bit of time where I was working with my cousin to identify my background, my history, my ancestry. My ancestry took me to Ghana. And I then went to Ghana to really find out whether, because I know that both my parents, in terms of my DNA, mDNA, were within 10 miles apart. My maternal DNA is 120,000 years old, and my paternal DNA, it was over 50,000 years old, and yet both of them were in Ghana, roughly 10 miles apart. So that was a bit freaky. And so I went to Ghana by way of a friend of mine who lived over there. And I thought, well, I'm not sure what I'm going to experience. I really don't know, but with the conversation with my friend, we went all sorts of places. And as soon as I came off the plane, right, except for the guy that stiffed me for £10 in terms of the CDs. So, but apart from that, it was really good. Now, one of the things that my friend said to me is that we need to go and see Elmina Castle. Elmina Castle was an epiphany for me. So when I went to Elmina Castle, where all the Africans were stored, and it was owned by successive colonial powers, I was taken around with a range of other people to look at how the situation that was there for Africans. Now, most of us have read and listened to some very experienced sociologists and historians, African historians. And so I knew some of what was going on. But actually, when I spoke to the guy who was, who had taken us around, I said, well, you live here, you should be telling us what it is that you know. There's some of these things are not written in the books. And I badgered him for about half an hour. And then he took me alone around telling me some of the things that his grandparents and his parents told him. And when he told me those things, that's when the kind of penny dropped, that it was horrific. I imagined myself in that place at that time. And even now I'm feeling a bit emotional, because it's one thing to read it, it's one thing to be taken around, but wanting to actually experience, you can see things, you can feel things. And I was traumatized. And I went into a place called Door of No Return, most people, and that's when that was that last view. You knew you were never coming home again. And I just sat there and I just started crying. I can't remember a time when I've cried like that. It's like there was no end, and it was totally, my whole body was crying. And as I was crying, this little bird, multicolored bird, flew in, perched in that space, and just sung until I stopped crying. And then when I came home, I knew, back to the UK, I knew that I'd experienced something of magnitude. And within 3 months, I locked up. There were some very interesting interactions with people around me. I almost became more African than I was when I left. It was a weird, strange feeling to know that people I was sitting next to when I left for Ghana, when I came back, wouldn't really talk to me. And that was a very strange experience. That lasted about 6 months, then I left. And within a year, I met an amazing coach, and that coach helped me really just say, if this is your destiny, your purpose, then you need to grab it and do something with it. And that was storytelling.
I like this quote, which seemed really relevant for me. You're not an African because you're born in Africa. You're an African because Africa is born in you. It's in your genes, your DNA, your entire biological makeup, whether you like it or not. That's where it is. However, if you were to embrace the truth with open arms, my, what a wonderful thing. And for me, that really speaks to me, because it's been along the journey of really connecting with my African identity, where I've just been able to grow, develop, and fly. I've seen magic happen, and some of what I've been doing has come about as a result of the journey that I'm on. I'd like to kind of say thank you for allowing me to take part in this, and I wish you all well.
Principles, 7 words.